So we're back at the Balagan connection. And today we're going to be dealing with something that I think is, it's going to be hard to talk about because you heard about what happened with the hostages. And I want to talk about how this is affecting not only Israel, but the whole Middle East and I believe the whole world. We'll be talking about the six hostages and what happened and the ongoing struggles of the hostage negotiation that's still going on, the powerful reactions that these events have sparked both in Israel and beyond. And these aren't just headlines, they're deeply human stories of pain, courage, and complex choices and people and nations that they have to make. The six hostages, including a boy named Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who was also an American citizen, but he was only one of the six. And they were all murdered by the Hamas militants after they had been taken hostage and held in captivity for almost 320 days. You might have seen his parents speaking at the National Democratic Convention, and they were sharing their anguish and calling for justice and calling for the release. And they urged the world to really recognize what the brutality of terrorism actually is and the need for support for Israel in fighting against these atrocities. President Biden responded by sending his condolences, condemning the terrorism, and reaffirming America's commitment to Israel's security, but only as far as to say that Hamas will pay for the crime and we will work for a deal to release the rest of the hostages in Gaza. Then he turned around and blamed Israel's prime minister for not doing enough.
Stepping off the presidential helicopter, Joe Biden says in the aftermath of the murder of six hostages, his team is still working towards a hostage release deal, but says one person isn't doing enough.
Mr. President, do you think it's time for Prime Minister Netanyahu to do more on this issue? Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
And where's the blame for Hamas? Where's the blame for the supporters of Hamas? Where's the blame for the people who are funding Hamas on not doing enough to release the hostages? The only piece of blame that he could find was for Prime Minister Netanyahu and what was going on. This hostage operation was one of those moments when you realize how fine the line is between hope and despair. The Hamas terrorists realized that the Israeli forces were closing in and about to discover their hiding place and to rescue the hostages alive. So on the orders of the Hamas high command, they actually literally them. And the whole idea was them not to be rescued alive by Israel. All of this took place inside of RAFAH, which is exactly where Kamala Harris, the vice president, acting president, future president, and the rest of the Biden administration has been putting huge amounts of pressure on Israel not to go into RAFAH. And I have to say, and as an Israeli, remember that AI-generated picture of all eyes in RAFAH that went viral in a way that nothing else has before, and basically stressing the suffering of the Palestinians in RAFAH, but not even addressing, not saying a word about the fact that there were Israeli hostages still being held in the terror tunnels in RAFAH while this was going viral, and there probably still are. In Israel, the reaction has been deeply personal for everyone, even for me. For many of us, there's an anger and even a rage, a frustration. And the question is, how do we continue to endure this cycle of violence? This is a tension that is spilled out to the streets where people are not just protesting the hostage situation, but also airing their fears and frustrations about where this country is going. What's going to happen with Israel? It's a nation at a crossroads trying to figure out its identity, trying to decide what's going to happen in the future, and the moral weight of all of the decisions. What the enemy has done is the Hamas has managed to drive a wedge deep down in the middle of Israel's soul and managed to make this issue from a moral battle, which is very, very clear, to a political battle. On one side are the families of the hostages who are willing to give up anything and everything just to bring the hostages home. And on the other side is Benjamin Netanyahu and the government that are saying that the way to deal with this situation has to involve more than just the emotions about the hostages, but has to take in consideration the future of the state of Israel. Now, both sides are very passionate and both sides are very outspoken. It's almost like we prefer to argue about the politics of the situation and not deal with the morality and the deep evil that it seems sometimes is too hard to even look in the eye. It's not about what the government of Israel is doing or not doing. It is about the evil Satan using his tool called the Hamas to do his bidding. We forget that sometimes. And I think the need for us to find rationality, to find something that we can approach, to find something that we can impact, and to yell, bring them home now, is like a replacement for looking into the evil in the eye and saying, this is wrong. To deal with evil on that kind of level just turns our guts around. And the back of all of this is a hostage negotiation, which is a terrible and drawn out process that tests the patience and the resilience of everybody involved. You have families on one side desperate for any sign that their loved ones are safe. You have the cold realities on the other side, and the involvement of third and fourth and fifth parties like the US, like the different Western powers on one side, and Iran together with Russia and China on the other side. Even North Korea is getting his hands mixed into this, just adds on to the complexity, and every day that passes without a resolution feels like an eternity for us Israelis. And yet the negotiations must proceed very, very carefully because the stakes are unimaginably high, and every decision carries the weight of life and death for the people in the whole region, and as you know, from a biblical prophecy point of view, for the whole world. So that's the situation. It looks like we're not going to be in Israel until the beginning of next year. We will be speaking in churches. We're going to be heading out east. So Midwest and Eastern United States, a couple of options have actually turned up. If you are interested, leave a comment below and we will kind of connect you, because we're looking for places to talk as much as possible about what is going on. In the meantime, Gihon Springs, that's the ministry that we're working for, is supplying a special equipment for soldiers in Israel. If you're interested in that, we're on a project to put together special backpacks for a tank unit that is very close to me that is actually fighting inside Gaza. Well, they're reserved, so they go in and they come out. And that's the situation, and that's what we're dealing with lately. And here's what I need. I need you to pray. Really, really, this is what we need more than anything. Please pray for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who, whether you like him or not, is the main leader of Israel and is going to be making the decisions in this terrible, terrible situation. Pray for Israel, who needs the Prince of Peace now more than ever before. I mean, this is what we're shouting out for. Pray for the American elections, that the right leader will be elected without tearing this whole country and the whole world apart. And I want to leave you with this thought. And in order to do that, I'm going to open up a passage from the book of Psalms that kind of connected to me while I was kind of getting prepared for this. Let's see if I can do this. This is Psalms chapter 90, Psalms 90, verse 16 and 17. And it goes like this: let your work appear to your servants, and your glory appear to your children. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish and make real and make possible everything that we do, the work of our hands. So I need you to remember, there are real lives at stake. These people are caught in this conflict are not just statistics. They're individuals. They have stories. They have families. They have futures that are forever changed by these events and by the decisions that are being made. We've talked about what's going on today. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the evil of these events. I mean, sometimes it seeps into my soul. I actually choke on it. But it's critical and crucial to remember God is in control. Thank you for joining the Balagan Connection today, and let's continue to keep these people in our thoughts and in our prayers as we go through these terrible times. Hope to see you soon.